At 23, retirement feels like a distant concept that belongs to someone else, someone older, more established, more certain about life. You're not thinking about 40 years from now. You're thinking about rent, about your next paycheck, about whether your account balance will hold until the end of the month. Somewhere in the background, you opened a retirement account, maybe because your company suggested it, maybe because someone in your family mentioned it once, but it sits there, quiet and ignored, holding a few $100s that don't feel like they matter. And that's exactly where the story begins. Because in your 20s, the most expensive financial mistake isn't losing money, it's doing nothing. It's assuming you have time later, that you'll figure it out when your salary is higher, when life is more stable, when things finally feel under control. But life doesn't pause and wait for you to feel ready. It keeps moving. And while you're busy figuring things out, something else is happening quietly in the background. Time is either working for you or it's working against you. That's the invisible reality of your 20s. Every dollar you invest has decades to grow, to multiply, to become something far greater than it looks today. And every dollar you delay investing doesn't just stay the same, it costs you future opportunity you can never fully recover. The difference between starting now and starting 10 years from now isn't small. It's the difference between effort and ease later in life. But you don't feel that yet. What you feel is pressure. You feel like you don't have enough. You feel like every dollar already has a purpose. So you wait. You tell yourself you'll start soon. Then your late 20s arrive and something shifts. Maybe it's a conversation. Maybe it's a moment of curiosity. Maybe it's just the realization that time isn't as endless as it once felt. You log into that account again. You look at the number. It's not impressive. It doesn't feel like progress. But this time, instead of closing the tab, you act. You contribute. Not perfectly, not consistently at first, but intentionally. In that decision, as small as it feels, changes everything. Because from that moment on, you're no longer standing still. You've started building something. You begin to understand concepts you ignored before: employer matching, contribution limits, tax advantages. You realize that some opportunities, like matching contributions, are essentially free money, and missing them isn't neutral, it's a loss. So you adjust, you increase your contributions, you automate what you can. You begin, slowly, to take control. By the time you approach 30, you're not wealthy, but you've built momentum, and momentum is powerful. Then your 30s begin, and life becomes more complex. Your income grows, your responsibilities grow, and your lifestyle grows with them. You move into a better place, you spend more, you build a life that looks successful from the outside. And this is where the next challenge appears. Not a lack of money, but a false sense of security, because things feel fine. And fine is dangerous. You're earning more than you ever have. You're managing your life, you're keeping up. But beneath the surface, your savings rate hasn't kept pace with your income. Your contributions haven't evolved. You assume that because your life is moving forward, your future is secure. But progress in income is not the same as progress in preparation. At some point in your mid-30s, you stop and actually run the numbers. You calculate where you're headed if nothing changes. And for the first time, you see your future not as a vague idea, but as a projection. And it's not as comfortable as you thought. That moment matters, because it forces a decision: continue drifting or change direction. This is where the acceleration begins. You increase your contributions deliberately. You stop treating savings as optional and start treating it as essential. You recognize that lifestyle upgrades, while satisfying in the moment, come at a cost to your future, and you begin to rebalance that trade-off. You invest more, you stay consistent, you let time and discipline start working together. By the time you approach your late 30s and early 40s, something changes again. Your accounts are no longer small. They're not life-changing yet, but they're real. They're growing in a way you can finally see. And for the first time, you feel a quiet sense of stability. Not excitement, not celebration, but relief. The system is working. But not everyone reaches this point in the same position. Some people arrive in their 40s with strong momentum. Others arrive with setbacks, life events, unexpected challenges, decisions that didn't go as planned. And if you find yourself behind, this is not the end of the story, but it is a turning point. Because now, precision matters more than patience. You don't have the luxury of ignoring the details anymore. You have to be intentional. You increase what you can. You reduce what you must. You take advantage of every opportunity available. Higher contribution limits, tax strategies, smarter allocation. You stop hoping things will improve and start actively making them improve. And it works. Not overnight, not easily, but consistently. As you move into your 50s, the picture becomes clearer. Your income may be at its peak, your expenses may finally begin to stabilize, and for the first time in years, you have room, real room, to accelerate your progress. You take full advantage of it, you contribute more, you plan more carefully. You think not just about how much you have, but how it's structured, how it will be used, how it will sustain you. Because now, retirement is no longer abstract, it's approaching. And with that comes a different kind of thinking. You begin to consider risks you never thought about before: market timing, withdrawal strategies, tax efficiency, the order in which you access your money, the stability of your income once work is no longer part of the equation. You build buffers, you reduce uncertainty, you prepare not just for growth, but for durability. And then one day, you're close enough to see it clearly. Retirement is no longer a distant concept, it's a date on your calendar, a real moment in your future, and you realize something important. Retirement is not about reaching a specific number, it's about reaching a point where your income no longer depends on your time, where your investments, your decisions, your discipline over decades have created something sustainable, something that supports you, something that frees you. And when that moment finally arrives, when you step away from the structure that has defined your days for so long, the question is no longer financial. The money part is done. The question becomes personal. What do you do with your time when it truly belongs to you? That is the question no one asks in their 20s, the question no spreadsheet fully answers, the question that only becomes real when you've done the work to earn the freedom to ask it. And that freedom doesn't come from one big decision. It comes from hundreds of small ones. From the moment you stopped ignoring the account, from the percentage you chose to increase, from the consistency you maintained when no one was watching, from the discipline that felt invisible at the time. That's how it builds. Quietly, gradually, powerfully. And one day, you look back and realize it was never about a single number. It was about what that number allowed you to become.